Welcome to Small Business Big Visibility. We get to hear from someone that's a good friend and someone that I've looked up to for a while, Robert Haines. He's a veteran, a pilot, business owner, business coach. Tell us your story.
Wow. Thank you, Jason. Thanks for letting me be here with you.
Oh, my privilege. My privilege. My privilege.
I've enjoyed listening to your podcast since episode 1, so it's exciting for me to be on this episode and be with you today. So my story really started in Central Texas. I grew up in a family of business owners. Mm-hmm. We owned a very diverse group of businesses, everything from automotive repair to high-end jewelry, property management, computer software, computer hardware. A lot of them were successful, many of them weren't. And that's the kind of the world I grew up in, and the dinner table conversations was about business and what is working and what isn't, and what do we want to change and what can we do differently, and why we're going to sell this one or why we're closing the doors. And so that's kind of the way my mind was trained, is to think about businesses in that way.
Very unique childhood then.
Very unique childhood, yeah. And even though we talked about things like marketing and branding and financial planning, we didn't use those words necessarily, but that was the language we spoke, and it was neat. I really enjoyed being in that environment. But we also lived next door to a retired Air Force colonel who was a retired pilot, and I would go next door and harass him for his stories. And he would tell me about the days of flying, F-4s and F-86s and B-25s and B-17s. He was an older man, flew in Vietnam and Korea and World War II before that. And so I really started to develop an interest in aviation and flying. And so when I graduated high school, I left 2 weeks later to go join the Air Force, went to Colorado Springs to the Air Force Academy, and started my journey to become an Air Force pilot. Mm-hmm. And that lasted a couple decades, and still had my hands in the family businesses throughout the years, helping to mentor, counsel, guide the businesses along. But when I retired from the Air Force, I really wanted to kind of combine what I knew about business, what I knew about strategic planning and leading people inside the Air Force, and start working with small business owners and develop plans for their success.
So how long were you in the Air Force? It sounded like
27 years.
27 years. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I imagine you got to fly a variety of different planes.
I did.
Such.
Yeah. I've flown over 20 different kinds of planes.
Wow.
Yeah, from unpowered gliders to very powerful supersonic jets. I've been able to fly 1 engine, 2 engine, 3 engine, 4 engine, no engine. So it's been a great diversity of airplanes.
So what was one of the greatest experiences that you've had?
Well, my favorite airplane was being able to fly the U-2. The U-2 is a high altitude reconnaissance airplane, commonly referred to as a spy plane, but those of us in the business didn't like to be considered a spy necessarily. You're not 007. Yeah, but that my greatest experience was being able to go fly the U-2 operationally in different parts of the world. It was really a realization of a dream for me, since I reflect back to being an 8-year-old kid laying on my bed in my bedroom, having a picture of a U-2 on the wall, amongst other airplanes on the wall too, but that was fascinating. So
help our audience who may not be familiar with that plane understand what that means to be flying one of those.
So the U-2 is, like I said, a high altitude reconnaissance spy plane, if you want to think of it that way. It is. It goes back to all the way to 1950s. Many people have heard the U-2 story with Gary Powers, was shot down over Russia, and August 1st, 1960. The plane isn't that old, right? The concept, the design is that old, but the plane has been upgraded and produced multiple times, and the ones that I flew were very, very modern, very sophisticated airplanes. But it flies over 70,000 feet, so twice as high as your normal airliner. And it carries a very sophisticated suite of intelligence collection instruments. And we would process, whether it's signals or imagery, various forms of imagery, radar, visual, infrared, and we'd build a picture of what's going on in a battle space, as we used to call it. And I'd be in the airplane all by myself, working with these sophisticated sensors and passing all that information via satellite back to some ground station and talking to them over my headset. So a very sophisticated network of James Bond kinds of equipment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And flying, like, I've flown a lot, right?
Yeah,
Going
yeah.
places, whatever, and I'm always at cloud level, but you're saying you're twice as high
Twice
as
as high,
cloud.
yeah.
So what's that look like when you're up that high?
The Earth has a curvature. I will guarantee you that it's round. I've seen it.
Okay, there you go. From someone who knows and has been there.
For someone who's seen it, yeah.
It's not flat, people.
No, it's the plane is operating at the maximum performance of physics up there. We fly
So any higher your spaceship is pretty
basically,
much? Yeah.
and it is an air-breathing engine, so we can only go so high before we run out of air. But it's also the way the plane is designed. We flew it in a very precise, what we call a coffin corner. It is on the edge of overspeed and on the edge of aerodynamic stall at the same time.
Wow.
That's how max performing we are with the airplane, and so. It's surreal to be up that high in a full pressure suit. We wear the same pressure suits that NASA astronauts wore at the time, and so it is a surreal environment to be in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's that like to be on top of the world?
Humbling, to be honest. It's very humbling.
Did it change your view in life?
Yes. It is humbling in the sense that I got to be the hero for the day, Jason, but it took over 200 people to get me airborne that day, from maintenance and ground personnel and supply chain, and a lot of people helping getting the airplane and me ready to go up there. And so it's humbling that I get to have this perspective and see our planet, right, but on the backs of people that helped me get there. It was also humbling in the sense that the small problems we deal with day to day just don't seem to matter when you're looking at entire continents below you, and you get a sense of, wow, right, we're on this ball traveling through space, and it'd be like, whether I can connect my phone to Wi-Fi in the library or not just really doesn't seem to matter, right?
Yeah, that would change it a bit.
Be like, that's a small problem. But you also get a sense of humanity from a different perspective. It's not this, right? I mean, this is a wonderful way to experience humanity, but it's also a wonderful experience when you look at an entire continent below you and be like, wow, why can't we just, all get along and work together to help make this a better planet? And all those little problems we have with each other just seem insignificant when you're looking at the world from up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So how does that change then your perspective on business?
Why don't we all just work along, together and solve problems together and stop trying to take things from each other? And I always think we achieve much more working together than we do working against each other. And business is the lifeblood of our world. Commerce is how things happen, and so. It is a very humbling experience to be able to look at it from a grand sense and be like, we can do a lot of things together when we just work together.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so now let's transition a little bit and tell everyone what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm a business strategist, business coach, and I do like to start with the big picture. When I work with businesses, and we will take that 70,000 look view of your business before we dig down into the
everyone else, by the way, does a 40,000 foot view.
Yeah.
He does 70.
I'm going to start with the bigger picture. That's right. So I love working with business owners to try to find out what is their vision, right? What is their vision for, first, their life? I really want to know, and you've experienced this, right? I want to know who you are, and I want to know what do you want. Right, and a shout out back to Sterling for a couple of weeks ago. One of your podcasts brought the same thing up, and those are two very difficult questions to answer. And I didn't realize, Jason, they were difficult questions to answer until I was asked those questions myself. Right, when I was transitioning out of the Air Force and getting into strategic planning and business consulting, someone asked me those questions, and I'd be like, wow, Those are difficult to answer, right? And so why is it that I'm, in my 40s at that time, and I still don't know how to answer the question of who I am and what do I want, right? And yet we're so busy every single day. We're so busy. And so when we talk about who you are, it's not the attributes that we put all over ourselves, the sticky notes of, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a veteran, I'm a pilot, and I'm a business owner. Yeah, those are all qualities, but it's deep down, it's not who I am, right? I am a man who's just trying to live my best life and create a positive world in the space around me, whatever resources that I have at the time, right? And use those for the best interest of others. And that's truly kind of who I am. And what I want is my wife and I have a very clear vision about the life that we want to live, and that has nothing to do with business, right? It has nothing to do with aviation. It's about how we want to live our life and how do we want to raise our children and what kind of influence do we want to have on others. We have, crystal clear clarity on what that life wants. So now everything that we do, how we spend our money, how we spend our time, how we talk to people, the kind of business I'm building, the kind of groups that we're involved in, all of those things are purposeful in order to help us create that life that we want. Right? Many business owners really don't know what kind of life they're creating. They're just trying to survive, right? Day to day, week to week, they're just trying to get by. And without really understanding from a 70,000 foot view, where is this all going? What is all this for, right? And so I want, whether you're a business owner or you're just involved in another profession, I really want people to understand with some clarity of what kind of life are they trying to create, and then how are their activities today and tomorrow and the next day getting them closer to that life, or even asking the question, are they even getting them closer to the life? And what kind of business are you building, and is it going to help you achieve the life that you want? And if it's not, how does it need to look different, right? And if it needs to look different, okay, then we can start getting into the nuts and bolts of what do you need to change, and who's going to help you change it, and how do you measure that change, and all those different things. But it really starts with that clarity. So starting with the clarity, how long does it take people to figure that out? Is that something that's done in one meeting with you? Does it take a couple of days? What does that look like for your people? It depends on the person, honestly. Some people, I believe, have come to crystal clear clarity maybe in a meeting or two. Others I've been working with for years, and they still don't have that crystal clear clarity. But their individual confidence is increasing that they're going to find it, right?
Gotcha.
Right. And it's not necessarily a one and done situation. Things change, life changes, relationships change. The world obviously is changing rapidly around us, and so sometimes what we want is evolving, but at least to try to find that, at least at this moment, to have that clarity of what do I want now, can take a couple hours. It could take a couple years. It could take longer. Yeah.
So in your mind, it's acceptable to have that long-term vision shift and adapt.
Absolutely.
It's not something you put in cement and then it's stuck there forever, right?
It will evolve over time, and we want it to evolve over time. We want it to reflect the world that we live in and the world around us, but it has to start from somewhere. Yeah.
So what is it you see coming in and being this coach and this mentor to business owners? What do you see that they most often miss? Maybe it's in their blind spot and they just don't even realize that they're missing it.
The thing I think they miss the most, Jason, is that they are the most important person in their business.
Okay.
Business owner will never, I won't say never, I don't like absolutes. A business owner will rarely, the business will rarely outgrow the owner. Okay, and so if you're a business owner and you want to grow your business, you have to grow yourself, right? And when I say grow yourself in terms of professional development, skills, mindset, physical wellness. And when I talk to business owners, and I used to do this, I used to have a place I would take them that had a mirror on the wall purposely, because I'd be like, tell me about the most important person in your business. And they would start telling me about an employee, someone that works really hard, that someone's really loyal, and I'd be like, okay, look that direction.
Right.
Now tell me who the most important person in your business is, and they'd be like, oh, wait. And it's, And I want them to realize, especially for solopreneurs, right? I mean, we give and give and give so much. Whether you have, just a few employees or many employees or a few customers or many customers, we give as business owners to others. And often we never take the time to care for ourselves properly. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever that means to you, right? And it's different to every person. But we are the most important person in our business, right? Because everyone is depending on us, and if we have a bad day, the business has a bad day, right? If we get sick, the business can suffer, right? Yeah. If we don't have the mental energy and the resilience to deal with the crisis when it appears, we're not going to resolve the crisis in the best way possible. And so we have to make sure that we invest in ourselves first, right? And most business owners put themselves last, right? And they wonder why they're always tired and why they feel unhealthy and why they're just exhausted all the time and why they don't have the mental clarity that they really need. It's like, well, look in the mirror, right? What are you doing for yourself?
Yeah.
Right.
So can somebody start taking that initiative without knowing the big vision? Are those two intertwined or are they separate?
I think taking the initiative will eventually help you have that big vision. I mean, I will challenge people when I start working with somebody, I will challenge them to just spend 10 minutes today doing nothing. Just sit with yourself for 10 minutes, right? Don't meditate, don't pray, don't do anything. Just see if you can sit with yourself for 10 minutes, right? And I equate it to the analogy of the muddy glass.
Okay.
If you take a glass of water and you put some dirt in it and you stir it, well, if you take a drink of water, it's not going to taste very good, right? If you let the glass sit there for about 10, 15 minutes, all that dirt will settle to the bottom, and now you can take a sip of clean water, right? Our minds work the same way. Our minds are constantly being stirred all day long by all these different inputs. And I believe we really have a muddy mind sometimes. And so if we just sit with ourselves for 10 minutes, it's amazing what clarity of thoughts come along sometimes. We get those aha moments of, wow, didn't think of that. Or to me, those aha moments could be very informative to what that vision is that you want in the future, right? Yeah. What is really important to you? I mean, what does that really mean to you? Where do you want to go with this life? And so 10 minutes. And how hard it is for people to take 10 minutes, to give themselves 10 minutes of just sitting there with themselves and be like, what does that say about our lives, right? When we can't even take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes is a lot of time in today's world.
It is, right? That's like answering 3 emails.
A microwave only takes 2.
Yeah, but what does that say about ourselves, right? So give yourself, just and be present. I think most of us don't allow ourselves enough time to just be present. And that's a learned skill, I think. Sometimes I'm married to the love of my life. She's an amazing woman. Sometimes she reminds me that she's right here and she needs 100% of my attention, right? Because my mind is always somewhere else, right?
Right, yep.
And so we owe the ones we love 100% of our attention sometimes to be present in those most precious moments that you'll never get back.
Yeah.
But we also owe that to ourselves, to be 100% present with ourselves sometimes.
So is that the secret, being present, is that the secret to being able to have a healthy work and outside of work? I like to call it family life balance. Is that the secret to that in your mind?
I think it's a big part of the secret. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially, and I think we're challenged today. We're all challenged. Not to disparage any podcast.
Sure.
Yours is amazing. But we all have on our phones all this information coming in, whether we scroll Instagram or we're on Facebook. And as a business owner, you're supposed to be on all those things, right? You're supposed to be promoting your business. But to me, that makes it really hard to put that down and to be present, right?
Because I might miss something.
Because you might miss something, right? And so to me, it is incredibly important, even for our own physical and mental and emotional wellness. Just spend 10 minutes, right? Try it.
Yeah.
How hard is it? Yeah.
Very easy to say, very hard to do unless you've practiced it.
I worked with a gentleman who, for about 6 months, who had still not gotten the 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, he was just, and he was a former Marine, and he was just like, it drove him crazy to sit there for 10 minutes and not be charging, doing something, right?
So when you see people that have taken that 10 minutes, what shifts? What changes?
I think their appreciation of themselves shifts, right? I mean, we are all amazingly beautiful created beings, right? And we have to appreciate that. And I think gives ourselves a little grace. We all make mistakes. We all can do things better. We can all, we all are on this journey together. But if you, I think, take a few minutes for yourself, you start to realize what wonderful people we are, right? And what a gift it is that we have this life, right? Start to appreciate it a little bit. And to me, that starts to clarify what kind of life do you want to live, right? What is most important to you? How do you want to spend your time? Who do you want to spend it with? What do you want to be doing? Where do you want to be doing it? I mean, all of those important questions that it might seem out there, and whether you're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, it depends on how far out you want to look. But we want some clarity out there, because we only get one shot at this life, right? So what do we want it to look like? How do we want to live it? And what impact do we want to have on others? So then back up and be like, okay, what do I need to do? And then who do you need to become? And I think that's a key awareness of we always talk about what do I want, what do I want, what do I want. And for me, it's important for me to know what kind of life you want. I don't care about what kind of material possessions you want, but I do care about, in order to live that life you want to live, who do you need to be, right? Who do you need to be in order to live that life? What needs to change about you?
And what do you mean by who do you want to become? Like what's
I mean, do you need to be more? Do you need to be healthier? Right? Do you need to be more disciplined? Do you need to develop different habit patterns? Are there skills about yourself that you need to learn and develop in so you can develop a little better aptitude in one particular pursuit versus another, and especially if you're a business owner? I know a lot of business owners that don't understand branding very well, or marketing, or how to read their finances, or how to do tax strategy and tax planning. I mean, those are all skills that are important. And if one of those, if you determine that, I need to be a different kind of business owner, maybe a little more disciplined, maybe a little more professional acumen, I mean, just who do you need to be? Maybe a little more positive, maybe be a better leader, maybe be a better follower, right? Yeah. So you just start to realize what needs to change about me in order for me to get to where I want to go.
Yeah. So as a business coach, I haven't heard you yet talk about products that you're selling or the pricing mix or any of that.
No.
That all sounds like that's a much lower priority.
Much lower.
In the way that you do business coaching, right?
Yeah, much lower. Yeah, that's at the 30,000 foot level, or maybe the 10,000 foot level. No, I think it's more important to start at the higher level. And I know there's a lot of great business coaches, and there's a lot of great coaches in the Valley here. And I think many of them start at that 30,000 foot level, right? They start looking at the products and services and product delivery and customer scores and finances and all that stuff. It's like, and all that matters, but we're not there yet. Right. We're not there yet.
Yeah, it's very different when somebody's so ingrained in that daily, I've got to do this, or I've got to meet these numbers, or I've got to sell this many. Yeah. And you're saying, take 10 minutes, step back.
Yeah.
Is that going to get you where you want to be in 10 years? And where do you want to be in 10 years, right?
Where do you want to be in 10 years?
Very different story.
Very, very different, yeah.
So after you have that conversation and someone identifies that, are there usually titanic shifts in the business that have to happen, or are they small?
It depends. Some of them are titanic shifts. I mean, I've had these conversations with business owners before who realize they're in the wrong business, right? The business they're in will never get them to where they want to go. And so they sold the business and completely started something different that was more aligned with who they are, who they want to be, and the kind of life they want to build. That's a titanic shift.
And when that happened, did you see a shift in them personally?
Oh, yes.
What was that like?
It was an aha moment. It's like they started a business, and this was a health and wellness business. They started it because they were really into health and wellness.
Sure.
And that's an interest of theirs, right? And they were, I would say, experts in that specific discipline. They were not good business people, right? And they realized that the business model that they had built and serving was just never going to ever deliver what they really wanted out of their life. And so that was a big aha moment for them. It was almost what I saw in them, Jason, was just like being let out of jail, right?
Wow.
They were like freed, right? Because of this daily struggle, daily grind, they're doing what everyone says they should be doing, right? They're posting and they're networking and they're doing all these things, and it's a grind and they're miserable. Right. So when we got them out of that, and they went into a completely different business in a different state, actually.
Wow.
Titanic shift, right?
Doesn't get much bigger than that.
It was freeing for them. They're like, no, and that was one of my greatest success moments, I think, is because they're like, no one ever asked us these questions. They always told us what we had to do to make this mess better.
Yeah.
No one ever asked us if we want to be in this mess.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So, that's kind of where we start.
So, but for other business owners, it's not always that Titanic, right?
No, for some it's not. No, some they realize that, some they realize they just need to change some things. Maybe they just need to pay a little more attention to employee development. Business owners are your own hardest working employee. You realize if you want to have this life out there, you can't be doing what you're doing 60 hours a week for the rest of your life, right? You have to train and develop some people to do things for you, or offload it to other professional services. Some of those just shifts would be like, oh, I can never get there if I continue to do these things. And so sometimes it's just small little adjustments,
And I liked what you said, it was like they were in jail and they got out.
Yeah.
Because so many small business owners I interact with feel like they're stuck.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I'm just trapped, or they have that sense of they're in a box and can't get out of that box.
Yeah, and that's not why they started the business, is to put themselves in a box.
Yeah, it was almost always they want more freedom, both time and money, right? And they end up with less of each.
So true, so true.
So does the 70,000-foot view give you that freedom of time and money, or does it just merely lay the foundation so you can get there?
I think it just lays the foundation. I think it's just a perspective shift, right? It's just trying to get people to look at things from a different perspective, a higher perspective. And doesn't give them time or money. They still need to figure this out. But how powerful it is sometimes when we can just change our perspective and be like, oh, I need to do some things different.
Right. And so how do these business owners make that extra time, because they're already stretched to the max? How do they make that extra time for the 10 minutes? And how do they make that extra time to be able to make those changes?
Yeah. It depends, right? I think any of us can look at any of our lives and realize we waste a lot of time on nonsense stuff, right? And so if I go into a business and just kind of follow a business owner around for a couple of days and just kind of look how they're spending their time, what do they spend their time on, inside the business, outside the business, I think we can always find some efficiencies. And the efficiencies, either we can do things a little bit faster and stop wasting time by being distracted by some things that really don't move the needle or don't matter to us. And sometimes I find business owners are invested in things and spending a lot of time on things that they know and enjoy, but really aren't making a difference, right? They really aren't making a big difference in improving their business, right? And so sometimes it takes an outsider to come in and look and be like, hey, what's going on? And sometimes it just takes me or another coach asking them questions. It's like, please help me understand why you spend 30 minutes a day doing this.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so it depends. Yeah, but there is time available. Time is our most precious resource. We all know that. But and we each have the same amount of time. And I think all of us know. I mean, I have a wonderful mentor, and when I talk to him, he has been CEOs of multiple companies. He sits on like 7 different boards. He serves on like 4 nonprofit charity things. I mean, he's busy. I mean, with all these things. But I'm just like, Randy, I mean, do you work like 24 hours a day? He's like, no, I work like 6 hours a day. It's like he's just very efficient with his time, right? And so that was a big takeaway for me. It's like, we can do wonderful things by just being very focused and very efficient. The time is there. We just need to use it smartly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So a couple big takeaways I've heard is slow down enough to know where you're going, and if you're going to get where you want to be, right?
Exactly.
Know where you want to be.
Yeah.
And then use the most valuable resource, time, as efficiently as you can, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any tips or tricks on doing that? How do people know when they're messing up and wasting their time?
I'm a big fan of time blocking. I time block my schedule. It doesn't work for everybody, but for many it does. I allow myself a certain amount of times to get certain tasks done, and that forces me to get it done in that amount of time.
Okay.
Right? And I'm a big proponent of not allowing distractions. If you're going to time block and allow yourself 2 hours to do some creative thought about, what do you want your next few podcasts to be or whatever? Do you treat that time as some sanctity, right? Like this is really important to you, and not allow yourself to be distracted,
Right.
and set up the protections around yourself so you don't get distracted by staff or the phone or the email or whatever. So it's very disciplined. I believe good time management is very disciplined time management, and different tricks work for different people. And I always, I can sit down with someone and recommend different things, but they're going to have to try it and see what's going to work for them.
Yeah.
But it does start with, one, you want to do it, so you're committed to learning how to do it, and so you just got to be disciplined.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
And then as people migrate to this idea of better self-care, is it mostly a mental shift to where they enjoy the work they're doing again, or is it, or the other things like you'd mentioned, better taking care of your health and getting healthier? How do you measure that for people?
I think everything starts with a mental shift, right? And so it is a mental shift of, hey, I need to take better care of myself, right? Because one, this is the body that I have, and I want to treat it well, one, out of respect for myself, but I want to treat it out so I can serve, my wife and my kids and the people around me best as I can. And so it starts with that mental shift, but then it's just developing the habit patterns that allow you to care for yourself. And it's not like, I'm not going to be on the cover of Men's Fitness, right? It's just not like you have to be a rock hard body if that's not what you want. It's just good sleep, good hydration, good nutrition, staying away from bad things, right?
Yeah. A bunch of very easy baby steps, right?
Easy baby steps, right? And so I think it starts with a mind shift as I want to do this because it's important. And then these are the easy things to do. And some people really overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Yeah.
Big vision, simple steps. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Big vision, simple steps. Yeah.
So how can our listeners find you, get a hold of you, connect with you?
They can call or text me. Okay, so I'm going to give you my personal phone number on this podcast. It's 405-514-1332. I'm often flying, so if you call and leave a message, I will get back to you, or text and I will get back to you. But yeah, reach out if there's anything I can help any of your listeners with. I'd be glad to help them.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jason. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for listening to another episode of Small Business Big Visibility. If you found this inspiring, I'd love it if you'd share it with other business owners, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode.